Díomh gach duine. An seachtain seo baimid ag foghlaim faoin bríomhar té. This week we're going to be learning about the verb té, which means to go. Ach ar dús, baimid ag caithfh súil siar ar na rudaí atá foghlaimthe Gwen Hannah féin faoin aimsir caite agus aimsir loighreach. But first we're going to have a little look back at the aimsir caite and aimsir loighreach. Dún, bris, ceannig, baillig, óil. You're looking at these thinking, well, that's not aimsir caite, I don't see any H's. And you're right, these are the roots of these verbs. Okay, this is what we start off with before we make any of our changes. We can also use the root of the verb to give orders. Dún an doras, close the door. Bris an inneog, break the window. Cheannig bia dom, buy me food. Baillig na cópleabhar, collect the copies. Óil an banya, drink the milk. To change into the past tense, very easy. All we do is add our H. Rún, bris, cheanni, baillig. We can't add an H to a vowel, so it's a D apostrophe. Dóil. The other thing we know about the aimsir caite is that we have a different ending for we. Rúnamer, dólamer, brishamer. The brishamer one sounds the same as the others, but you'll see its spelling is different. Why? Because dún and óil are Latin, they're broad. So the broad U goes with the broad A. Okay, but bris is quail, it's narrow. The narrow I goes with the narrow E. We know that for our two-syllable verbs we get rid of our ig and we add on eamer, ceanníomer, bailíomer. And again you'll see a slight spelling change between those two, and again that's because of quail and Latin. If we want to ask a question in the past, is always our question word. Rúnamer, brishamer. Did we close? Did we break? We also remember that in Irish we do not say yes and no, tá and níl. We answer a question by kind of giving the question back to them. So, rúnamer, did we close? The answer isn't yes, it's rúnamer. Yeah, we did close. If we want to say that we didn't, our negative word is near in the past tense. Near rúnamer. No, we didn't close. Okay, Anish, on to the aimsir loighreach, the present tense. Remember, it's the present tense, it's about things that you do every day, every week, every year, regular things. So we still have the same roots, dún, bris, ceannig, baillig, óil, but there's no H going on here. For the present tense, our change is going to come at the end. Dúnan, ólan, brisin. Again, don't they sound the same? But there is a change in the spelling for brisin because it is quail. Again, get rid of that ig. And our two-syllable ending is a little different. Ceannian, bailíon. They sound the same as each other, but there's a slight spelling difference. Then we have a separate ending for we. So we get rid of our an, and it's amíj, dúnamíj, brisamíj, ólamíj. But our ending for our two-syllable ones is slightly different. Ceanníamíj, bailíamíj. The big difference here in the aimsir loighreach is that there's a separate ending for me. Now, you can say dúnan mé, brisin mé, ceannían mé if you want, and it's right. But there's also another way to say it, which is dúnam, brisam, ólam, and again the two-syllable one has a slightly different extra sound in there, ceanníam, bailíam. Here's another difference for our aimsir loighreach. Our question word is on. In the aimsir caite, in the past tense, it was rún, but here it's on. And the other change that's coming here is an uru, which is that little letter that gets stuck onto the front of our verb. So on núnam, on mrisham, on gianiam, on maliam, on nolam. Okay, so that's our big change here We're moving from air to on, and we're using an uru. How do we say yes? Well, that hasn't changed. We just say the verb back to you. On nunum, dunum. On mrisham, brisham. On genium, canium. Now to say no, we have a slight change here again. In the past it was near, but now it's just knee. And it takes a H when it can. You'll see there's no H down there for olam because we don't put H's on vowels. So it's ni runum, ni vrisham, ni chenium, ni valium, ni olam. So again, to go back on that, in the past we have near and air. There's a similar sound there. There's that or sound at the end. Near and air are for the past. On and knee are for the present, and they're for the future as well. Okay, so why am I telling you any of this at all if what we were supposed to be learning about was te? Well, the reason I'm showing you this is first of all to go back over these rules, but also you're going to see a big difference in a minute because all of the verbs we have been looking at have been regular verbs. They're regular. They play by the same rules all of the time. If you look here, look at the pattern. You can see dune repeated over and over and over again. The root of that verb is present everywhere in this verb. You know, no matter what we're saying, if we're talking about the past, if we're talking about me, if we're talking about we, if we're asking a question, if we're saying yes, if we're saying no, we always see that same thing. Dune, 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 dune. And if this was brish, it would be again brish, 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 brish. These are regular verbs. They have the same patterns coming up in them all the time. They follow the same rules all of the time. And that's important to note because what we're going to look at now, te, is an irregular verb. It totally doesn't play by the rules and we're just going to have to learn them off. Okay, so are you ready to learn about te? You're going to need to keep your eyes peeled, your ears open because there's going to be a lot of changes here. So, dus an aimshakacha, the past tense. Now, the root of our verb is te. So, if it was following the rules like any of the other verbs, our past tense would be hey. It would be te with a H in it. But it's not. It's chuig. And you know this. You've heard this before. Chuig me gadi an tra. I went to the beach. Chuig tu awalya. You went home. Again, we have, like a lot of the verbs, we have our different ending for we. So chuamur, we went. Now here's where it gets very strange. Our question word, on nyakig. On nyakig. So if you were paying attention so far, you're going to be looking at this thinking, well, now this makes absolutely no sense. Because first of all, that nyakig bit looks absolutely nothing like huig, does it? And it's on. And everything we've learned so far has been that the question word for the past is what? Air. So this is highly irregular, but it's still, this is just how it is. On nyakig tu school. Did you go to school? On nyakig she godi an Spáin a leihin to Sira. Did he go to Spain on his holidays? What's not different is how do we answer? We just give them the verb back. Chuig. Chuig me. Yeah, I did go. Chuig tu. Yeah, he did go. But what if we're saying no? Wait for it. Ni yachig. So again, this is a bit crazy. It doesn't look anything like the word so far. The only predictable thing here is at least it looks a bit like the question. So an yachig, chuig, or ni yachig. Pay real attention to that because that is about as strange as this verb gets. Now, let's have a look at an Aimsir Loihrach, the present. Now here, it is kind of following the rules a bit more. It's a bit more like you would expect another verb to be. Because we have teim for I go, and tein tu, tein she for you go. He goes, she goes. And if we look up at the root of the verb, the te, well, yeah, this does kind of make sense because if we knock that ig off, like we do, and put on an un ending, yeah, this kind of looks okay. But it's still very different from the past tense, isn't it? Then we have teimij for we. And again, yeah, that kind of makes sense. You'd knock off the ig and you'd put in the image. But like we said, it's very different from our I'm sure catcha. On dayin, to ask a question. So again, this is obeying a lot more of the rules. It has the on for the present tense question, and it has the uru. Teim, yeah, we give the verb back to them to say yes. Yeah, teim, yeah, I do go. Yeah, tein she, yeah, he does go. And ni heim, no, I don't go. Or ni hain, she, no, she doesn't go. Again, this is obeying the rules a bit because we have the ni, which is our negative word for the present, and we have our h. So that this one makes a lot more sense. It kind of behaves a lot more like you would expect. Now we're going to go into an I'm sure Ashnuk, the future, which we haven't really done a lot of work on with the other verbs, but here we go. So in the future, it's rocky. And here's where the irregular thing comes back in. Because this looks absolutely nothing like kuig, does it? And it looks absolutely nothing like te, and it looks absolutely nothing like tein. So we're working with something that's very irregular here, and we just have to learn it off. So rocky may gudi on Yaraman, I will go to Germany. Rocky may gudi Loch Gorman Lilin Nasaura, I will go to Wexford during the summer. Rachamij, we will go. On Rocky, will you go? Rocky, yes, I will go. Ni Rocky, no, I won't go. So again here, while it is very different from the other ones, at least it's obeying some of the rules. So it's using on for the question word. It's saying itself back to you to say yes, and it's using ni for the no. Okay, so that's the verb te. In the past, chuig. In the present, tein. In the future, rocky. It seems very unusual, but it's just something that with practice and by writing it and using it in conversation, you'll get better and better at it. Now, your homework for this week is today to write some sentences using the past tense. So you could write chuig me gadi an siopa, chuamer gadi an tra. Tomorrow you'll be using the present tense. So you could say teim skol gach lá, or tein she gudi chach a antine ag an dera shachna. She goes to her auntie's house the weekend. And then the next day you're going to be writing some using the future. So you could say, Rachi me arash school in Man4. I'll go back to school in September. And on the last day, I'd like you to try and write some questions and answers. So you could write on nyachi to gudi chak the wamo. Did you go to your granny's house? And chuig me gudi chak moamo, or ni yachi me gudi chak moamo. No, I didn't go to my granny's house. Before we finish, let's have a look at what things are the same. Okay? So one thing that's the same, one way in which this difficult verb is obeying the rules, is there is a separate ending for we, and it's amur for the I'm sure catcha, which is what we would expect. It's imij for the I'm sure loihruk and the I'm sure oshnuk, which again is what we would expect. What else is obeying the rules? Well, in the I'm sure loihruk, there's a separate ending for me, im, and that is what we would expect from a regular verb. And there is an uru when we're asking a question. So all of these things are obeying the rules. There's also a H here for when we're saying no. So all of these are what we would expect the verb to do. But then it is also doing things that we don't expect, like anyachi and niyaki. So just keep your eyes peeled for them and pay special attention to them. Okay? And the main thing, guys, is I know this is hard and it's kind of, when the verbs are breaking the rules that we've learned already, it can be a bit confusing. But we just practice, and that's how we learn. And we don't worry about making mistakes the first times we're trying things out. So for homework, just give this a try, okay? And if you make a mistake here and there, Fiona and I will correct it. And then the more mistakes you make, the more you learn and the less mistakes you'll make in the future. So I hope that's all okay. Watch this video back as many times as you need to. Alright? Good luck.